Welcome to another episode of discussing Kids Deserve It and the different chapters throughout the book. Tonight we are going to be talking about chapter 22, which is called The Alien Look. Would love for you to share out this Periscope as you watch. If you just slide over and click on share, so we can get the word out, and I will start talking here. Hey, Roman from Canada, sunny Florida. Yes, I love my Florida friends who are always on here. Thanks for being here again. I always love seeing when people get on here and type where they're from. See, another person from Florida. Love that. And New Mexico. Hey, Eli and Jordan from Missouri and Katie from Florida. Three different people from Florida today. That's awesome. Love it. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here today from Louisiana. And hey, one of my teachers is on here too. Southern California, Oklahoma. Awesome. Love when we have people from all over the country getting to join in tonight. On a side note, I always think that's really cool when people from all over the country join, because I look at this and think, that's another example of why we get on social media and why we connect in different ways, because even though we're states apart and even countries apart, with my friend from Canada on here, that we still get to connect and learn together with platforms like Periscope or Twitter or Facebook or things like that. But anyway, so this week's chapter is called Alien Look, and I think this is probably one of Adam's favorite chapters. He totally coined the phrase alien look, and so I got to give him props for that. That was totally his idea and his kind of come up with. And it's funny because when we started thinking about this chapter or thinking about use the term alien look, we had some people who were like, "Are you sure you want to call it that?" And Adam was like, "Nope, that's what it is," and I completely agreed with him. But when we think about that alien look, we think about, Adam and I, and many of you, I'm sure, have gotten that look many times where you come to a meeting or come to an event or something, you're super excited about some idea you want to try. Maybe a new lesson, maybe a new classroom management technique, maybe a new resource you found, and you're so pumped, and you go and you share it with the group, and then all of a sudden, nobody says anything. Or you get shut down, or they roll their eyes, or go, "Oh, there you go again, trying something off the wall." We've all experienced that at one time or another. And many times when that happens, we can get in this mindset of, "Oh my goodness, was that idea really terrible?" Or, "Okay, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm embarrassed," and things like that. And I think for me, it's really important that when I have to mentally prepare myself. We had this conversation with some teachers today that I have to really, whenever I'm going to introduce an idea that I know could be controversial or could be something that may not be widely accepted, I have to mentally prepare myself to go in there to go, not everybody's going to like this, and that's okay. Because if I go in there with that mindset, it makes it much easier for me to keep that in my head when going and having those conversations. And so one of the stories that we talk about in here is Dinner with a Gentleman. And this is probably one of the things that I am most proud of doing as a campus administrator. Dinner with a Gentleman started out with an idea. So we have a Watchdogs program that we do that we still need to get better at, but we had a big kickoff event last year. We advertised like crazy. I've got 750 kids on my campus. We told them there was going to be pizza. We passed out letters. We had it on our marquee. We talked to the classes. It was on the announcements. We sent out Remind. It was on Facebook. We advertised our Watchdog kickoff event like crazy. And when the time for the event came, we had 2 men show up. 2. I was like, what the heck? What did we do wrong? And when my assistant principal, Aaron Marvel, and I were looking at it and really trying to figure out what went wrong, we came to the conclusion that we thought that, no men really showed up to that event because they knew that it would be something that we were going to just be asking them to volunteer for something else. And so why come when I know they're just going to be asking me to do something else? And so I thought, what? With the community that we serve and with many poverty-stricken areas, the men that are involved in kids' life aren't always their fathers. And so I said, I really want to do something that celebrates the men in these kids' lives. Because maybe as a school, if we start with celebrating those men instead of giving them ideas to ways to be involved, maybe if we just start with celebrating them, we can easily get them more involved. And so I said, what can we do? And so Aaron and I really brainstormed some ideas. And, there's that typical donuts with dad thing that many schools do. But our facilities just don't fit that because of the amount of kids we have in. When we have them in, it just wouldn't work. So I said, what else can we do to really meet, be able to celebrate them? And I said, what if we did a dinner? And so I reached out to two of my friends on Voxer, Brad Gustafson and Ben Gilpin, principals in Michigan and oh my gosh, I just forgot. And it's Minnesota. Yeah. Goodness gracious. And I reached out to them and I said, I have this idea. Help me flesh it out. And so I said, I want to do a dinner. And I said, what? I just want to celebrate the dads. And so I said, okay, I contacted a caterer and I said, I've got a little bit of Title III money that I can use for parent engagement. I said, I want to get ribs and stuff for about 150. I was going to dream big. 150 families to come. And so it worked really well in our budget. So I sent out the letters to all the families and I said, we want to do dinner with a gentleman. We did decide on dinner with a gentleman instead of dinner with dads or any things like that because we didn't want to use the term dad because we didn't want men not to come because they didn't feel like they were the father. Coming from a broken home myself, with a father who often wasn't there, I really wanted to make sure that the kids were comfortable inviting any man in their life that was important, whether it was an uncle, an older brother, the neighbor down the street, their pastor, whoever they wanted to invite. And so what we did was we sent out that letter because I wanted to have people RSVP because I wanted to know exactly how many people I was going to be having to buy catering for so I could budget it well. And again, I was dreaming big at 150. And it was funny because on the letter we put no moms allowed. And I got several calls when those letters went out of moms going, "Why can't we come? We want to be there too." And I had to say, this is a thing that we want to do with the kids with the men. We'll do something later with moms, like a muffin thing or something like that. But we want to do this with the men in their lives. And so they understood that. And so as the RSVPs started to come in, and we reached 100 RSVPs, and then 200, and then 300. I got with my assistant principal and I said, "Aaron, what are we going to do?" I said, "This is already way more than what we were anticipating." We ended up with about 630 RSVPs. Blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, what are we going to do? We don't have the space for this. We don't have the seating for this. We don't have the tables. We don't have the money for the caterer. We can't tell people they can't come now because we advertised this crazy thing. And so what happened was I called the caterer back and I had to cancel and go with a different caterer where it was just burgers and stuff because really that's all we could afford. And then I called the local VFW. I called the Masons Lodge. We called the City Hall. We called our district office. And we got chairs and tables brought over to our area. We're lucky that we have a gym and cafeteria that there's a wall in between that we can remove. So we removed the wall and utilized the space. It was very tight to fit everybody in. And we had a discussion about moving it to like our community center or something like that. But I was like, no, we already advertised it. I don't want to lose men because they went to the wrong place. So we made it work. And we got all the chairs and tables borrowed, and there were chairs of all kinds of colors and sizes and types. But you know what? We got it to work. And the caterer worked really well with us to make that work as well. And then I said, I want to do more than just have a dinner. And so what we did was my librarian used some of her library funds, and she purchased enough books so that every single kid that arrived at the dinner got to take a book home with them, because we wanted to make sure that when the kids left with their gentleman, there would be a way to continue the relationship. And we thought, what better way to continue a relationship than reading with someone? So every kid that showed up got a book. We had a slideshow that played the entire time. We had 3 guest speakers. Our ethnic groups are typically white, Hispanic, and African American, and so we had a speaker that represented each one of those. And they spoke for about 3 to 5 minutes. It was just an encouraging message. It wasn't a here's how you can be better involved or anything. It was just like, thanks for being these men. It's so important for these kids to have you in their lives. And then we had a student panel. And I got with about 6 or 7 kids beforehand to ask them if they would be on the panel, about 1st grade through 5th graders. And I remember, kids are so honest. And I remember asking one of the kids, I said, who did you bring and why did you bring them? And I was so touched but heartbroken at the same time, because he said, I brought my dad. And I was like, oh, great. Why'd you bring your dad? And he said, because he never hangs out with me and we never get to do anything. And so I knew if he came here, he would be just with me and we'd get to be together. And I thought, oh, that's so sweet. But at the same time, like, oh, that dad's got to be like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. But it was such a neat experience. We didn't offer a dress code or anything, but there were so many kids that dressed up super fancy when they came, and it was so neat. And I gotta say, standing in front of that crowd and being in front of a room full of, we had about 580 show up, being in a room full of about over 500 men and children, it was very powerful. Because as an elementary educator, there's many times where you show up and there's families, but a lot of it's just the moms or women or grandmothers. But to be in there and see nothing but men showing up for their kids, that was powerful. And we're in the midst of planning it for this year right now and deciding on some dates and stuff and trying to get some corporate sponsorships to help us afford the money this time. But I share this story because it was a big undertaking that wasn't hugely celebrated or widely received when the idea was originally shared. Many times when we try to do something different or we try to do something that hasn't been done before, there's comments of, that won't work, nobody's going to show up, how are you going to get the money, we don't have the resources, we don't have the space. And every one of those things did pop up, and they were obstacles. But I'm always of the believer, and just like we talk about in Kids Deserve It, of eliminating excuses. I'm not going to not do something just because somebody told me that we weren't going to be able to. And I've definitely got that personality that when you tell me I can't do it, you better watch me prove you wrong. And to me, this is one of those powerful moments to say, why haven't we reached out to families like this and just done this and celebrated them for no other reason at all? And I love what Molly just said. Think if you had stopped at the first one, only 2 people showed up. And and that's such a powerful thing to say because, we could have stopped because we could have done that and say, well, that failed. Well, of course, the parents aren't going to be involved. That's how children of poverty is. What are we going to do? And so it was just kind of like, I'm really glad we didn't quit or give up. And it wasn't perfect at all. And there were things that I want to fix for this next year, but it was powerful. And I still remember afterwards getting a couple of phone calls from moms, again, and they were in tears, a couple of them. And I was like, oh no, what happened? And I remember one mom just sitting on the phone and crying, and she said, I can't believe it. And I said, can't believe what? She goes, my husband has never wanted anything to do with our child's education or that school. And she said, whatever y'all did that night, she said, he came home and asked if I would get him a volunteer packet. And it was one of those super powerful moments that I was like, wow. And when I think about our kids and the kids that we serve, and kids, period, and I think about the home that I came from too, and I look at this experience, and I think about, many of these kids, that may be one of the only times that they get one-on-one time with that man in their life. And I truly believe in the power of having a strong male figure in kids' lives. And so I think that for me, it was really powerful for that as well, just to have them have that moment. And what came from that is, did we get a ton of volunteers of men to come in our school? Not yet. We're still working on it. But we had one dad leave that event, and he came up to the office the next day, and he said, I need a volunteer packet. And I said, okay, I'll get one for you. He goes, but I need you to know, I already talked to my work, and I've taken off every single Wednesday for the rest of the year. I want to volunteer here every single Wednesday all day. And he has come last year and this year every single Wednesday all day. He is incredible. He goes from class to class. He works with the kids. They have adopted him as our school dad. We ask him to go on field trips with different grade levels, and he loves it and goes. And it's one of those things that it's just like, even if from that event only one dad did that, that begins to start the ripples. And those kids love seeing him on campus, and he is so good with them. But it's one of those moments that says, you know what? That's when the alien look is worth it. When those people give you that look like you're crazy, what you're doing is pointless, why are you even wasting your time, and then you go and you blow them out of the water with what you were able to accomplish, that's why we still press on even when we get those looks. And it's important to remember that sometimes when you get those looks and you try to do the idea anyway, it will fail. Because I can't tell you how many ideas we've done that did not work out. And it's important to remember that even when they do fail, that shouldn't be a reason why we stop doing what we're doing. We still have to push forward and still have to keep trying our best to be who we can be. At the very last paragraph in this book, it talks about how far too many educators back down when they get the look. We can't back down. We have to keep pressing forward, even when we get the look, even when everybody tells us it's a terrible idea, we don't have the resources, we don't have the people, the kids aren't ready for it, all those different things. But I love what we talk about in this chapter about how we need to be proud of that alien look because it means we're doing something that is different and innovative a lot of the times. And I always think of that phrase of, if everybody is happy with what you're doing something wrong. And so it's important to remember that. And I even love what Lauren on here says about our house system. We got an alien look at that. That's true. When we tried to implement this Ron Clark Academy house system at our school, there were some definite alien looks like, what are y'all doing? This is crazy. This isn't going to work. And now it's like the people love it, and we all love it. So thanks for reminding me of that, Lauren. I hope that you continue to press on, especially with a brand new year. It's a great opportunity to go out there and try new creative things, remembering that some will fail. You'll get crazy looks, and some will be very difficult. But nothing was ever accomplished by anybody who didn't get a crazy look. And so, I mean, when I think about different people in history, like Martin Luther King, Oprah Winfrey, all these people who did these exceptional things, and I'm sure that they got crazy looks when they said the things they wanted to do. But keep pressing forward, keep being awesome. Hope you have a great 2017. This is our first Periscope of 2017, so I'm super excited to continue discussing things with y'all every week. Hope you join our chat in just a couple minutes at 8 o'clock as we talk about this chapter some more and dive in with the hashtag Kids Deserve It. Thanks so much for seeing all y'all, and I'll see you again next week.